Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. However you're watching, wherever you're watching, however you listen, wherever you listen. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. And we are here, but unfortunately, we're not the tripod. But 2/3 of the Byrd banner is way better than a third or none at all. So we're here to you again. We got the man himself, Ryan Dyrud. How are you doing?
So when it's just the two of us, are we just like a line segment? Is that all we are? Like we don't make up like a tripod or a triangle, so we're just like a line.
I guess so. Or chopsticks.
Chopsticks? Okay. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of references we can make to with two people with a duo, but I'm good, my friend. Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Excellent.
Well. It's hot. You don't have your hoodie on today.
It's hot, and this room gets real hot. So I did our Rams show right before this, so it's been a lot of small space, closed door, confined with no fans on. So it's warm.
You have to get you one of these things, dude. Look, I have these right here on my desk right now. It hooks up to your computer, USB.
Oh,
It's called.
I have like a ceiling fan and I have an air unit right there, but it's too like noisy.
Ceiling fans are the most overrated thing that's ever been invented.
Oh, they're terrible. They're worthless.
Ceiling fans don't work. I think they just like keep the air from like being stuffy or whatever. It keeps the air flowing, but they don't keep you cool.
No, it's just blowing around the hot air.
That's all it's doing. Yeah.
Like a dust storm.
So also another trick you could do is in the morning, turn all your fans on. Every fan you have in the house, turn it all on. Cool the house down.
Yeah.
Right. And keep that cool air in there. And then once you kick on your AC, the way the AC works, the return air is going to start pulling in that cold air and it'll push out that cool air. And then the AC will keep that cool air going. So that's a good way to do it too. And another good thing to do is if you know where your return air is, get some ice water and put it by the return air and let it pull in that cold air off that ice water. Just a couple of tools, tricks of the trade. But for me, I need to get my air conditioner serviced because it's not blowing very cold air. And also, I think because it's humid outside too. So a lot of the ACs out here, I shouldn't say a lot, but just the outside air is not helping. So it's pulling in that humid air. So the AC is kind of pointless because most of the ACs are home are ran off a cool water system. So it's just a bunch of humid air blowing. So
yeah, well, there you go. Look at that. Then salute to Troy.
HVAC
summer tips. There you go. Yeah. Luckily, my apartment actually stays pretty cool. We're like shaded by a lot of trees, so luckily the whole place is cool. But where my room where I work and record is just it's like a 7x8 room, so it just naturally gonna get hot anyway, even without the outside heat, just because it's like not a lot of space.
Got you. Yeah. Speaking of that, but I need to get my AC service, so I need to look into that. If anybody knows any good AC service people, I will appreciate that. Probably just needs a good cleaning. Anyway, so let's jump into this. So when you think of things that last forever, right? So the thing I would think of, I would get into right now is 4th of July.
Best holiday.
You know what I'm saying?
Minus Christmas.
There you go. So for you, it's best holiday minus Christmas. But did you know there's another holiday next week that people don't know about?
Like Juneteenth or Father's Day?
Well, Juneteenth, Father's Day, those are holidays also. So in a week, there will be 3 holidays. On the 14th, there's a holiday. And that one comes first before Juneteenth and Father's Day. And that's Flag Day.
Flag Day, yeah, okay. Yeah.
Flag Day, right? So then you have holidays like 4th of July. So all the way up until December, right? You have 4th of July in July. August, you don't have anything.
September, August, you have. Oh no, you're right. September's Labor Day. Yeah.
September is Labor Day, and also, September's Labor Day. September, October is nothing. November, you have 2.
Leif Erikson Day. Yeah, Leif Erikson Day.
All right, so you have one like Leif Erikson Day
and Halloween.
But Halloween goes in the Flag Day, Father's Day category.
Yeah.
Right. But then you also have November. You have Veterans Day, which is a big holiday. Yep. You have Thanksgiving. Then you have Black Friday off or whatever. And then you get into December, you have Christmas and New Year's. Those are holidays we know. Those are holidays that stick around. Then you get into the Halloweens, the Father's Day, the Flag Days, I kind of put Juneteenth in that category. I don't want to get political, but Juneteenth was kind of a shut up holiday given to Black Americans, but that's neither here nor there. If you guys want to have a conversation, we can have that conversation at another time. What else is there? Cesar Chavez Day goes into that category. Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day. You have holidays like that, right? And then you have the flag days of the world that don't even exist. Pearl Harbor Day is also a holiday on December 8th. 7th, right?
Yeah.
Pearl Harbor Day. Yeah, you have those holidays. And the reason why I'm getting into that, Ryan, is because there's been some buzz for the past week and a half. And you guys mentioned it a little bit, but there's been some buzz for the past week and a half about canceling the Notre Dame. I'm sorry, I'm saying it backwards. The USC Notre Dame rivalry. And for you to cancel that rivalry is like saying we need to get rid of one of the major holidays like 4th of July or Labor Day or Christmas. Let's just get rid of Christmas. There's no need for it. There's tradition.
I was wondering where you were going with all that. Yeah, okay. You brought it home.
Tradition no longer matters, right? And their backstory is tradition doesn't matter. The rivalry doesn't matter, this and that. Tradition's gone in college football. So why don't we just cancel Christmas? Tradition no longer matters in America anymore. Like it's not this. Christmas is not the same for our generation, I should say, as it is for Gen Z. You know what I mean? Christmas kind of means something to us. We have that tradition behind it. But for Gen Z, you know, they're different and they live their lifestyle. I have nothing against them, but their lifestyle is different from mine. Christmas means a lot to me, but for them, it's just another holiday. Why not cancel Christmas? That's on the same scale. And I'm not talking about the religious aspect of it. I'm not going there. So let's not talk there. We're just talking about the holiday of Christmas. Before we start getting people, we'll get comments like we're just bear with me there. And I get the
you're comparing you're comparing just the tradition of USC Notre Dame to that of Christmas.
Yes, spending time with your family. Yeah. So why not just get rid of it? And like people's also the backstory is USC is playing in a tougher conference, and they do not need another tough game. Here you go, pop quiz. Who is the only? You know the answer to this. Who is the only Division I university that has never? Sorry, I shouldn't say Division I. Power 5 university that has never played a FCS school.
Is it?
You know it. Yeah, you put it on SC's Twitter. It popped up on our Twitter. Like you legit was bragging about it. Like SC is the only Power 5 that's never played a FCS school. And we're not going to do that. And it's been clearly said that we're not going to do it. Nobody supports it. Why will we soften our schedule with the hate that we have? I guess we should say, right? Like our standards are different for people than they are for everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we were to play, here's a good example. Oregon's a great example, and I use Oregon because, you know, my brother went to Oregon, this and that. Oregon plays a powder puff preseason schedule. Oregon loses 2 games. They're still considered a contender, right?
Mm-hmm.
SC plays a powder puff preseason schedule. SC loses 2 games. Are they still considered a contender? Nah, never. You just never. They'll be like, oh, they lost 2 games. SC's immediately out. You know, SC's always immediately out once they lose a game, and they're the only ones that play Division I schools through and through.
I would argue. I totally agree. I would argue Oregon usually would be out too. I would say the better example is Alabama or any SEC school. They can play powder puff, lose 2, and they're still in the conversation. Obviously, there's no more Pac-12, but any Pac-12 school. Obviously, this is USC, but I think Oregon, any of them, you lose 1 or 2, it's like they were automatically out regardless. So, but yeah, to your point, other schools don't have that same situation that an SC has.
Right. But the fact is, like, the history of the game is not gone, and the history of the game will never be gone. You were there, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you were talking about on the last show. Like, was it the last show? Maybe it was the last show. But you were there. You were talking about just being there and being on the sideline and being a part of it, like, was so great. Oh, you're talking about with Jeff.
Jeff,
and you were all there, and it was so great, and you saw these people, and everybody was so excited because the team is so good, and that's the support you get. How many people from LA flew to South Bend just to see that game? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, there was a ton of SC fans, and then like I said, I got a privilege to go down on the sideline, and it was like Frosty Rucker, Matt Leinart, Keyshawn Johnson. You go down the list, Lendell White, bunch of players flew out for that game because it means something. It's important.
Speaking of Frosty, when you coming on the show, bro? When we gonna get from? We're putting APB out for Frosty Rucker. You're supposed to be on the show. We're looking for you, Frosty.
The bat signal.
We need it. Maybe we need to glare it up in Tustin, California. Where's Frosty?
Yeah, there we go.
No, but like, so I don't know if this is clickbait, but then Joe Klatt jumped on, and people starting to like Joe Klatt agreed.
I was surprised that Joe Klatt jumped on that. Sorry to keep jumping in, but I was
good. Go ahead.
Because it was Colin Cowherd was the one that said it. And again, I get why anyone thinks this, because the fact is now, to get to the playoff, SC does not need to play a Notre Dame out of conference. The conference is hard enough. There's 12 teams. So why would you risk that to miss the playoffs? So I get that side of it. But for any college football purist, and we'll get into other reasons too, money being one of them, but for just any college football purist, how can you take one of these rivalries away? So that's why I was so surprised that Joel Klatt jumped on board, because he is like a college football purist. I mean, he played it at Boulder, and you know, I think he was one of the great college football analysts. I was just shocked when he was actually on board, because I thought he would have been like, no, this is one you cannot get rid of. This is like almost as big as Michigan, Ohio State, almost as big as Auburn, Alabama. I mean, I maybe bigger than Auburn, Alabama, but one of these classic ones you cannot get rid of. So I was just surprised that he jumped on board.
So 2025, they open up with Ole Miss. They play Georgia Southern. They play Notre Dame on 10/18, right? Those are the dates. 8:30, they play Ole Miss at home. They play Georgia Southern at home. They play Notre Dame at home, because we go to South. That's weird.
No, it should be.
Get at Notre Dame. It says at Notre Dame. I'm sorry. I can't read. Notre Dame. So their Big Ten schedule, 2025, Illinois, Nebraska, Oregon, Purdue, Iowa, Michigan, Michigan State, Northwestern. Oregon and Michigan are the two hardest Big Ten opponents in 2025. I think when this came out, people don't understand how the Big Ten schedule works. You only get to lock in 2 games, right? But SC's only locking in 1. You get to protect 2 games, but SC's only protecting 1, and that's the UCLA game. And so there's going to be years where SC is probably only going to play Michigan, right? They gave it. Now, I'm not going to lie. Out of the gate, they gave it all to us, right? They gave us Michigan.
Everyone but Ohio State. They got everybody but Ohio State,
right? And there'll be years where it's just Ohio State. And Washington ebbs and flows. They don't stay where they are. So Washington may not be good, or they may be competitive, but they may not be good. And we might just get Ohio State and have an Iowa, Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska, those types of that type of schedule.
Yeah. The Oregon States of the Big Ten.
Yeah, and it's going to be like, all right, well, their schedule's not tough. We didn't schedule it, so that really doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, like, Notre Dame matters as far as strength of schedule. Now, flipping over to the history of the game, this is the only intersectional rivalry in college football, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for the game, and I was looking at it, and there's so many stories. It's kind of like how it started. But I know it's because of Howard Johnson and Newt Rockne. They're the one that wanted to start this thing, and they decided to get their teams to play. And it kind of has the Rose Bowl feel to it, like the Rose Bowl and the Rose Parade thing, where they were writing letters back home saying it's January and it's 75 degrees, and they were inviting people out. They wanted to invite them to the West. They wanted to bring the players back to the Midwest, and that whole thing started. The Jewish lady got involved in it. It became a whole little rivalry thing. Why would you take that history away? In that case, take the Rose Bowl away. The Rose Bowl's not going anywhere. They're figuring out how to keep the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. But why are you taking away Notre Dame? Like, historically, like, there's no reason to take away that game. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you get what I'm saying behind that, Ryan? Like, am I lost?
Yeah. Well, that's why they won't take it away. I mean, this is a pundit saying he thinks there's no need for it. But I don't think it's going anywhere for everything.
But if you get enough push, see, we have our own Calen Kyle Hurd on the network, right? And we all know him. Hot take, Tahj, right? Tahj is our Calen Kyle Hurd. He'll throw a hot take out there. Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. But the thing about Calen is, and there's no offense to Tahj, he's our guy. We love him. He has millions and millions of fans of people who believe him and follow him.
Mm-hmm.
That eventually can get enough steam to get going.
And he's pretty plugged in with USC too.
He's not that plugged in.
No, I'm not saying make decisions, but I just mean like he obviously is on a first name basis with everyone. I mean, I see him in the press box all the time, hanging out.
Yeah.
He's like a celebrity when he comes in.
He's a big SC fan, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like, why would you create that steam? And now you got Joe Klatt, and it's like it doesn't make sense. And then like it kind of led to Fox saying, "Hey, you need to cancel this LSU game," and they try to get out of it. And even Fox is going to throw it. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, was that? I think it was more the USC trying to get out of it, right? Not necessarily Fox.
It was a Fox thing.
Was it a Fox thing?
It was a Fox thing. Fox wanted SC to get out the game. Fox is even going to help pay because they didn't want one of their premier schools for the conference opening up with a non-conference game against LSU.
Gotcha. So they wanted an opening as a Big Ten game,
or they wanted it more a Big Ten
or like a guaranteed win game.
Yeah, more like that.
Oh.
Yes, that's a little noise I'm hearing.
Part of it.
Yeah, little noise I'm hearing in the background. So and then that's what led to this Notre Dame thing. But like, if we're gonna get rid of Notre Dame, we need to get rid of Christmas. We might as well not even play UCLA every year. There's no point to playing UCLA every year. Like let's be realistic. And in reality, like, why do you do something like that? And it's a guarantee for you to get into the school. And we know it's not going to happen, but it was just said, but it's a guarantee for you to get into the playoff. Because one thing you can always do is go down the schedule. How did they do against SC? How did they do against Notre Dame? Oh, perfect. You know what I mean? Because it's going to get like 2025, Notre Dame is perfect for SC. Because we don't know what Oregon is going to be. And the Oregon may be good, but we don't know what Michigan is going to be. We don't know what Michigan is going to be this year with all the changes. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of questions in 25.
Yeah. Well, here's the other coin of it, the other side of it. Because obviously, SC, we want this. I mean, it's a rivalry, but realistically, when you look at, and I get what you're saying, we don't know, but still, realistically, there's two power conferences now. The ACC is going to be gone soon. Like, USC does not need Notre Dame on their schedule to get in the playoff. Like, we want it as tradition, and there's obviously a lot of money in the game and blah, blah, but they don't need it. Notre Dame kind of needs USC. They're still independent. Right. Who's Notre Dame's other rival? Navy?
Stanford.
Navy and Stanford. Those aren't games that are getting them in the playoff because of those. Those are just like fun. USC, they need USC, not just for the tradition, not just for the rivalry, not just for the money that comes in for this game, but it's like their one guaranteed like premier program that they play every year. Because other than that, Notre Dame has pretty cupcake all around a lot of times if they're not scheduling Clemson randomly or Ohio State randomly. So if you look at the other side, the reason why this will never happen is because Notre Dame can't afford to let it happen. Notre Dame needs USC on their schedule to even have a shot.
And what do you mean by they can't afford to not let it happen?
Not afford, like, in order to make the playoff, not money wise. They can, I mean, they run NBC, they have their own network, but they can't afford to not have a USC guaranteed on their schedule because otherwise, how are they getting into the playoff? I mean, some years they don't play anyone if they don't schedule some of these guys.
They need to keep playing. They need to keep playing this game because Notre Dame will eventually be in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, then that solves it anyway because then it's a conference game.
It becomes a conference game, and that'll be the other protected game. I think you can protect two games. I'm not sure. I don't know if it was one or two. I'm not sure, but it's going to get to a point to where Notre Dame won't be able to survive. Won't be able to survive independent because of what's going to happen to the ACC,
mm-hmm.
and they're going to have to find a home. And it makes no sense. ACC will be gone. Makes no sense for the SEC. The only place for them to go is the Big Ten. Notre Dame's going to be a Big Ten school. They need to keep playing this game to keep them relevant, so they don't end up like Oregon State. I know people say, well, they have the name to protect them, but like you said, they're not playing anybody, and they've been flying this lone coyote thing for a long time. Like, why should we let you in? And then the issue is going to become the NBC contract. What do you do with the NBC contract? How do you deal with that? How do you go on from there? You know what I mean? Like, because Big Ten and Notre Dame, I'm pretty sure, are fighting about that contract right now, because if SC's undefeated, Ohio State's undefeated, Notre Dame's undefeated, they're playing somebody who gets the primetime game.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting too. Some will say it'll just go to NBC because Fox has, Big Ten also has the CBS contract. They have a CBS contract and NBC contract. So that may happen too, but you get a big weekend with a lot of good teams in one conference. Notre Dame may get pushed to the side, so that'll be good to see. But with all said and done, I believe that it should stay. And it shouldn't go anywhere, and this conversation should be put at ease. You have anything to say to that?
Yeah, which it will. It's I don't think it's going anywhere. So let me ask you this to wrap up. Where do you, and I know obviously you're a little biased, but that's okay. Where do you rank,
I can put my bias to the side.
Where do you rank USC Notre Dame in terms of historical college football rivalries? When you look at the big great rivalries out there. And second question, is USC Notre Dame bigger than USC UCLA, or is USC UCLA bigger than USC Notre Dame?
Oh, that's okay. So the first question, I would say it's number 2 behind Michigan and Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's for sure top 5. You could maybe argue a few in there, but no matter what, it's top 5.
It's behind Michigan and Ohio State. Is it bigger than USC UCLA?
If you're putting it at number 2, then you're clearly think it's bigger than USC UCLA. Otherwise, you would have it at 3, and you'd have USC UCLA at 2.
And the only reason why it's bigger than USC UCLA to defend it, and I hope you can like edit this and put this on the radio, because this is great talk for the radio. Should have asked us out the gate so we could have. The only reason why it's bigger than USC and UCLA, because USC is the only national geographical rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? That's what makes it bigger. That's
not regional.
Yeah, it's a nationally known rivalry, and people don't understand the USC UCLA rivalry until they get to California. They're like, "Oh, this is bigger than I thought it was."
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's kind of gets a shock. They're like, "Oh, this is a big rivalry." Like, so I think it is bigger than USC and UCLA. My question is to you, to rebuttal that question. Now that Texas A&M and Texas are back in the same conference, do you think that rivalry will start to gain steam again and become a top 5 rivalry and compete with that USC and Notre Dame rivalry?
I mean, I still think it will get bigger again, but I still think Texas Oklahoma will always be bigger than Texas A&M, right? Like the Red River rivalry is historic and great. When you look at, Miami, Florida State, that's a great rivalry, I think. Florida State's good too, but I think Miami, Florida State, I don't know. I don't know that side of the country as well. I think that one's bigger, just based on my childhood. But real quick to your point, and I agree, because I think USC, UCLA, it's obviously extremely regional. It's 13 miles apart, the campuses, but that rivalry feels more, how do I say this correctly, like school oriented. Like I went to USC, I went to UCLA. We're rivals, but we also are friends. We live together. Like maybe we're married. Like it's a fun, there's obviously some hatred there, but it's a fun rivalry. USC Notre Dame is a pure football rivalry. Because let's be honest too. UCLA is a lesser football program. That's no shade. It's a fact. They're more basketball school. It's a talented football program. I think it's on the rise again, thankfully. Because I really want that rivalry to keep being better. It's better for LA football. It's better for, I think, college football. But UCLA is not a football school. It's a basketball school that has a rising football program. USC is a football program. Notre Dame is a football program. So that is a true football rivalry that obviously is national, as you mentioned, being cross country.
And it kind of debunks the whole we play real football in the Midwest. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because USC goes out there and beat them. It's kind of, let me look up the record real quick. Because that's also good because it's like we play smash mouth big time football. So the overall series is 49-37.
In favor of
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. I mean, they had that early stretch where they were just obviously so good. Way back. It's been a long time, but
yeah. So it started in 1926.
Yeah, for almost 100 years. Almost 100 years.
The first game was played on December 4th, 1926, and Notre Dame won 13-12.
Ooh, barn burner.
Like, so I don't even leatherheads. Yeah, I don't even understand how you could just throw something like that away.
All right, so another question. I'm trying to think before I ask this question, like other great. I mean, I think obviously Michigan, Ohio State's number one. I think I'm trying to be biased. I would put USC Notre Dame too, but Oklahoma, Texas is close. Auburn,
the problem with
Alabama's got to be close.
The problem with Oklahoma, Texas is that they play it so early and you forget about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when it's rival time, all these schools are playing their rival. It's kind of like the Pittsburgh, West Virginia. They play each other so early, like you kind of forget about it.
Yeah.
Like
I know, some of the scheduling is odd. Yeah. And that's why
West Virginia are in two different conferences. That's why.
That one, yeah, that makes sense. But so are Notre Dame SC, like they always do at Thanksgiving. So you could do
No,
that.
they do it Thanksgiving weekend when they play in the Coliseum, and they do it in October when they play in South Bend.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, there's obviously all the interstate. The Apple Cup's great, but it wouldn't be, I don't think, better than some of these ones. But the Apple Cup's great. The Civil War is great. Any of the interstate ones are always good. So okay, I'll ask my question then. What's the greatest formal rivalry that is now dead? Because there has been some, unfortunately, with realignment, and one that I can think of off the top of my head, just while you're thinking, like, and this is just me growing up in Colorado, like Colorado.
It's Nebraska. The same one. That one. Yep.
Colorado, Nebraska was such a good rivalry. They killed when they realigned.
I swear that's what I was going to say. And I was like, I think it's coming back because Colorado and Nebraska are playing this year. And I think they're working it out to where they're
played last year too, for the first time in forever. Yeah.
So I think they're trying to work that rivalry back out to where they could play again because the way the schedule is set up. So Colorado, Nebraska is a good one. And here's another one that's a really big one that's highly underrated. The Holy War. The Holy War is a really good one.
For those who don't know, remind people what that is.
Oh, yeah. BYU. I was going to say BYU and Penn State. BYU and Utah. BYU Utah is a very good rivalry. That's
very underrated, but very good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to scour up and down the nation. Yeah, the Holy War and Colorado and Nebraska. Colorado and Nebraska used to be really good. And the thing about Colorado and Nebraska, and that's where, so I'm a Puritist, right? And so I am used to the Egg Bowl being played on Thanksgiving, and then the next day, Colorado, Nebraska.
Yeah.
You know, and I miss those days. Now the Egg Bowl, they try to make it a big deal, and like people who are like, oh, Mississippi State and Ole Miss are powerhouses, like they're not. They used to play on Thanksgiving. The rival was on Thanksgiving, like, and so, but those types of games, the Egg Bowl is not that great now anyway. So that one kind of doesn't matter. But
yeah, it's big for the people that go there, but that's about it. Nationally, I would say it's not that big anymore.
I would bounce back and say this though. I think the USC and UCLA rival to back your point also is the fact that the USC and UCLA rival is also a lot of people who grew up together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like your cousin or your brother, maybe. Like you rival them, but you still have respect for them. And like at the end of the day, when the game is over, you're like I used to always say, like you're always in the club with UCLA. Like it never turns into this big old brawl because you were in the club with UCLA. Like it's because it's like you said, it's so close and they recruit all the same areas. It's like the same thing. So that, but like compared to Texas and Oklahoma, they hate each other.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
and that's Notre Dame. Like you don't see each other, so it's like it's pure just like hate.
Yeah, so like it's legit. Like we play real football. Like, all right, well, we're gonna come show you what type of football we play, and just smash you in the mouth, get on the plane, and get up out of there. You know what I mean? So, what up, Michigan City Holiday Inn? That's where we stayed when we played when we played Notre Dame.
And that's not the Holiday Inn, but I stayed in Michigan City when I left Notre Dame because there was nothing else to stay at, and it was
Michigan City had a Holiday Inn. Like, can't beat that one. So yeah, that's great. But yeah, to put a feather in all this, there still is a lot of history in college football. The history's not gone. I think the problem is the difference between like extreme purists and people like me. Like, I'm for players getting paid, but I'm also for the potential of a Penn State USC rivalry. I'm all for a new type of rivalry. I'm all for like new history being written. Like there's going to be history, but there's also new history that comes along, right? So like be open to new things that happen because it could become great. You know what I mean? So you never know what we're going to get out of this, but that game needs to stay because of old history. If that game, if that, I'll end it on this. If that game needs to go away, then the Rose Bowl needs to go away because there's no reason. Because the whole reason for the Rose Bowl was the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. So are we going to play Washington State or Oregon State every year in the Rose Bowl, and it just becomes what trash? So that is my comparison I could make. You got anything to end it on this?
Yeah, I mean, things are going to change. There's no Pac-12 anymore. So a lot of things change. USC Stanford, that rivalry, unfortunately, is going to, I'm sure they'll still see each other every now and then, but it's not, there's a lot of history there. So things are going to change. As you said, there's going to be new history, but there are certain historical pillars that I think have to remain for college football to be college football. And one of those pillars is USC Notre Dame. So it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, I agree. With that being said, we got one together. Football season's coming around. It's almost camp time. Pretty sure summer school started. They're starting to work out, so it's almost camp time. So we're ready to go. I appreciate you, Ryan. I appreciate all your friends. It's the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. Another one of the books. Thank you guys for watching. You know how it goes. Live free. Fight on.